In a world that constantly demands more success, more possessions, more validation, the pursuit of happiness can feel like a never-ending chase. Yet, for thousands of years, Buddhist philosophy has offered a path to inner peace and fulfillment that does not rely on external circumstances. The teachings of the Buddha provide a blueprint for a life of balance, wisdom, and genuine joy. In this exploration, we delve into 7 transformative Buddhist principles that illuminate the way to true happiness. At the heart of Buddhism lies the understanding that suffering is an inherent part of human existence. The Buddha, Siddhartha Gautama, left behind a life of luxury to seek the truth about suffering and how to transcend it. Through deep meditation and self-inquiry, he discovered the 4 noble truths, which lay the foundation for the path to enlightenment. These truths remind us that while suffering exists, there is also a way to move beyond it, a path known as the Eightfold Path. One of the first steps on this journey is mindfulness. In modern times, mindfulness has become a buzzword, but its roots run deep in Buddhist tradition. Mindfulness is the practice of being fully present in each moment, observing thoughts and emotions without judgment. By cultivating mindfulness, we learn to appreciate life as it unfolds rather than dwelling on the past or worrying about the future. When we anchor ourselves in the present, we unlock a sense of peace that is not dependent on external factors. Another key principle is non-attachment. In Western societies, happiness is often equated with acquisition, whether it be wealth, relationships, or status. However, Buddhism teaches that clinging to impermanent things leads to suffering. Everything in life is transient, and when we attach our happiness to something fleeting, we set ourselves up for disappointment. Practicing non-attachment does not mean rejecting love or ambition, but rather embracing life with an open hand, appreciating what comes and accepting what goes. Compassion is another cornerstone of Buddhist thought. The Dalai Lama once said, "If you want others to be happy, practice compassion. If you want to be happy, practice compassion." True happiness arises when we extend kindness to others, not just in grand gestures but in everyday moments. Compassion shifts our focus from self-centered desires to the well-being of all, creating a ripple effect of joy and connection. Life, in all its beauty and complexity, presents each of us with a kaleidoscope of experiences, joy and sorrow, success and failure, gain and loss. Amid this ever-changing tapestry, human beings have long searched for a sense of grounding, a deeper truth that brings peace beyond the fleeting pleasures of the material world. Among the many wisdom traditions that offer such guidance, Buddhism stands out as a profound philosophy and spiritual path that addresses the core of human suffering while pointing toward the possibility of enduring happiness. At the heart of Buddhist wisdom lies the understanding that suffering is an inherent part of life. This truth, known as the First Noble Truth, is not a pessimistic declaration but a compassionate recognition of the human condition. By acknowledging suffering, not as a flaw or failure but as a shared experience, we open the door to healing. Buddhism does not merely identify the problem, it offers a path, a way of living that allows us to transcend suffering and cultivate peace from within. This path is not a set of rigid rules but a living practice rooted in mindfulness, compassion, and wisdom. One of the most transformative principles on this path is equanimity. Equanimity is not emotional numbness or indifference, but rather a profound inner balance, a state of mental calmness and evenness of temper. Especially in difficult situations, in a world where change is the only constant, equanimity becomes a refuge, a center of stillness amidst the storms of life. To cultivate equanimity is to no longer be tossed about by the waves of external circumstances, but to remain grounded, to see clearly, and to respond with wisdom rather than react out of fear or attachment. The cultivation of equanimity requires intention and practice. It does not arise overnight, nor is it granted to a select few. One of the most effective tools for developing equanimity is meditation. Through the practice of mindfulness meditation, we learn to observe our thoughts and emotions without clinging to them or pushing them away. We begin to notice the constant arising and passing away of mental states, the anger that flares and fades, the joy that comes and goes. In observing this impermanence directly, we start to loosen our grip, to let go of the desperate need to control or fix everything. We learn to rest in awareness itself, the space in which all experiences unfold but which remains untouched by them. This state of mindful presence allows us to face even the most painful challenges with grace. Whether it is the loss of a loved one, the failure of a dream, or the sting of rejection, equanimity gives us the strength to feel deeply without being overwhelmed. It is the middle path between suppression and overindulgence. In equanimity, we are fully alive, fully engaged, yet not enslaved by our emotional highs and lows. It is in this balance that we find a lasting happiness, one that is not dependent on external validation but rooted in our own inner clarity. Yet, equanimity alone is not enough. To truly transform our lives, we must also cultivate gratitude, a practice that shifts our focus from what is lacking to what is already present. In the modern world, we are constantly bombarded with messages that we are not enough, that we must do more, have more, be more to be happy. This insatiable desire creates a sense of restlessness, a hunger that can never be satisfied. Gratitude offers an antidote. It invites us to pause and notice the blessings that already surround us, the warmth of the sun, the laughter of a child, the support of a friend, the miracle of breath. Gratitude is not about pretending everything is perfect or denying our pain. Rather, it is a way of broadening our perspective. Even in the midst of suffering, there are moments of beauty, kindness, and grace. When we train our minds to see these moments, we begin to experience a profound shift. The world becomes less threatening and more nurturing. We realize that abundance is not about accumulation but about appreciation. With gratitude, even the simplest experiences become sacred: a sip of tea, a shared silence, the touch of a hand. This shift in perception has a direct impact on our mental and emotional well-being. Studies have shown that people who practice gratitude regularly experience greater happiness, better health, and stronger relationships. But beyond these measurable benefits, gratitude opens the heart. It softens the edges of fear and resentment. It reminds us of our interconnectedness, that we are not alone in our journey. And in that recognition, compassion naturally arises, not just for others, but for ourselves. Self-compassion and self-awareness go hand in hand. In Buddhist philosophy, self-awareness is not merely an intellectual understanding of our thoughts and behaviors, it is a deep, experiential insight into the nature of our mind and the roots of our suffering. Through practices like meditation, journaling, and honest reflection, we begin to see the patterns that govern our lives, the stories we tell ourselves, the identities we cling to, the fears that drive us. This process can be uncomfortable, as it requires us to confront parts of ourselves we may have long ignored or denied. But it is also liberating. When we develop self-awareness, we gain the power to choose. No longer are we slaves to our habits and impulses. We begin to act with intention, aligning our choices with our deepest values rather than reacting out of unconscious conditioning. This authenticity brings a sense of integrity and wholeness. We stop trying to be who we think we should be and start living as who we truly are. This journey of self-discovery is not about becoming someone new, but about peeling away the layers of illusion to reveal the clarity and goodness that have always been within us. And yet, even as we come to know ourselves more deeply, we must also come to terms with a fundamental truth of existence: impermanence. Everything in life is in a constant state of change: our bodies, our relationships, our emotions, our circumstances. To resist this truth is to invite suffering, for attachment to what is fleeting inevitably leads to loss. Buddhism teaches us to embrace impermanence not as a cause for despair, but as a gateway to freedom. When we stop clinging, we start living. We become fully present, knowing that each moment is precious precisely because it will not last. Accepting impermanence does not mean becoming detached or indifferent. On the contrary, it deepens our appreciation for life. We love more fiercely, forgive more easily, and savor more fully. We realize that nothing can be taken for granted, that each conversation, each sunrise, each breath is a gift. This awareness brings a sense of humility and wonder. It reminds us that we are part of something much larger than ourselves, a vast web of life that is always in motion. To live with equanimity, gratitude, self-awareness, and an embrace of impermanence is to walk the path of mindfulness. Mindfulness is the thread that weaves all these qualities together. It is the practice of being fully present in each moment, without judgment or distraction. It is both a discipline and a way of being. Through mindfulness, we become more attuned to the richness of our experience, the texture of a sound, the rhythm of our breath, the subtle dance of thoughts and feelings. We begin to see that every moment, no matter how ordinary, holds the potential for awakening. As we deepen our mindfulness, we naturally cultivate compassion, not only for others but for ourselves. We begin to see that everyone is struggling in some way, that behind every harsh word or selfish act is a being trying to avoid pain or find happiness. This understanding softens our hearts. It allows us to forgive, to let go of grudges, to meet anger with patience and judgment with kindness. Compassion does not mean condoning harm, but it does mean refusing to perpetuate the cycle of hatred and blame. In the Buddhist tradition, compassion and wisdom are like two wings of a bird. Both are needed to truly soar. Wisdom without compassion can become cold or arrogant, while compassion without wisdom can become naive or self-sacrificing. Together, they create a path of balanced living. This path does not promise a life without pain, but it does offer a way to meet pain with dignity and grace. It offers a way to find joy not in external circumstances, but in the depth of our own being. Ultimately, happiness is not a destination to be reached, but a way of being to be cultivated. It is not found in possessions or achievements, but in presence, in connection, in kindness. The teachings of Buddhism remind us that we already have everything we need to be happy, we simply need to remember. We need to return to the stillness within, to the quiet knowing that we are enough, that this moment is enough. As we walk this path, we may stumble, we may forget, but each moment is an opportunity to begin again. There is no final arrival, only a deepening, a widening, a softening. The journey itself is the destination. May your path be filled with light. May you meet yourself with gentleness. May you find peace in the breath, joy in the small things, and love in the silence between words. Namaste. Until we meet again.